Benji, Brady, we are back. It feels good. We're all back in the studio together. You guys have been so busy. There's been so much going on. Y'all have had a lot going on at the office. Obviously, it's summer. Family trips are going on. Things are happening. But I'm excited to finally sit down with you. Benji, I feel like I've talked to you most of the summer. Brady, I feel like it's the first time I've seen you in like 4 weeks. So
that's not 100% true, but we'll go with it.
I did run into you very quickly in the office, but you were busy. So
the family is back together.
But
back together.
Back in action.
Back in action. So we're excited to jump back in. We've been, obviously we're rocking in season 3. Things are going good. We had that little bit of a fumble on the last one. We had to make some changes. We recorded the episode. Some things got crazy with y'all's schedule. So Benji and I jumped in there and just did something. So we didn't have this long break. We had already taken, we took May off, and we were trying to keep you guys entertained, keep you here thinking that we hadn't disappeared again. We've already done that once. So
we back.
I didn't want it to happen again.
We back. Well, today we're going to be talking about some, basically there's a book out there called The 5 Coaching Habits of Excellent Leaders and how we can create the reliability advantage for our team. And I thought it'd be cool to kind of go back in time when we were all kids and our coaches that we might have had growing up. Is there, with either of you guys, is there a specific coach that comes to mind that you had growing up that might have taught you a life lesson or something you go back in your mind, you're like, man, that makes total sense why they said it that way now. Either one of you have something like that?
Man, I'll tell you right now, for me, I was very fortunate to play football at Huntington College. It's out in Montgomery, Alabama. In Old Cloverdale is an old school. But Coach Charlie Goodyear was my lineman coach. Charlie Goodyear. No, he did not make tires. Yet he did make a lot of jokes toward me when I played. I'm not saying that I was the best player. I played second string tight end, so at least I saw some action on the field. Wasn't the greatest player in the world, but got to play. But man, I've never had anybody talk to me the way that he did. I don't think I've ever heard people string together the language that he strung together. But
can you say any of that language on here, Adam?
I cannot.
Okay.
I cannot.
Family show.
Family show. We cannot. It was very poetic, if I can say it that way. But he did make a big impact. One of the things that I tell people today, to be on time is to be late.
Yeah.
To be early is to be on time. He used to always tell us, if you're walking in, if we have a meeting at 8 a.m. and you're walking in at 8 o'clock, you're running laps.
You were probably the guy that if you were late, you were throwing up in the trash can. Is that what you're telling us?
Yep.
Much.
Yeah. So
been there, done that.
He did that. So he had a big impact. And then just, I feel like some generational things have changed. I feel like I come from the generation where, man, you just grind it out. Like, I don't even think.
Yeah.
Man, I think, Brady, you can go back and look. I don't think I had any, if anything, sick days when I was working with you. I feel like that came from him. Hey, suck it up. Things got to get
suck
done.
It up, Buttercup.
Yeah,
and you grind it out. But I mean, he taught me a lot of just in hard work. Nothing comes easy. You got to put in the time in the gym, on the field. Hot days in Alabama, August in summer camp. Man, I would say a lot of the reasons that I have the traits that I do in terms of working probably come from those years that I played football there.
Oh yeah.
So Adam, I know you said his name was Goodyear. He didn't make tires, but it sounds like he got a lot of good traction.
Oh wow.
There it is.
That dad joke.
Yeah. No, I mean that's a good question, Benji. I was thinking about coaches. I didn't play football. I was not good at football. I think I actually went to at least one spring training one time. I didn't even last the full 2 weeks. So I didn't play football, but I did play basketball. You and I did both. Had lots of good coaches. I remember one coach. His name was Coach Killian, and he was a military guy. So very Adam, kind of like what you were talking about, Coach Goodyear. I mean, just we went to a Christian school, and he still used some of that same language. And but the habits that he taught us, and man, I remember even some of the summer workouts were just brutal.
Oh yeah,
brutal. But in thinking about like all of the coaches, I think some of the like the things that I go back to is, what are some of the things that they taught us, and I think as a general theme is most of the good coaches taught us at the beginning, and in fact, I told this story to some of our team yesterday, is going back to the fundamentals. So when we started out the season, we started practicing. We were like, "Hey, we want to have fun. Let's scrimmage. Let's do this. Let's do that." And they're like, the good coaches said, "Nope, we're gonna dribble. We're gonna pass. We're gonna do suicides, even though we probably can't call that anymore. But run laps,
run lines, guys.
Run lines. There you go. We're gonna practice layups. We're gonna practice free throws, and we're like, golly, why do we keep having to do all this stuff? And we did that for months, and then we got to scrimmage and have fun. But we did a lot better because we got back to the fundamentals. And so I think from a coaching standpoint, even reminding your teams of what are those fundamentals that we need to be focused on right now, so that we can reflect on where we're at. And just get better at the simple stuff. So that's what I remember.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think a lot of that stuff translates in. We do that. Our coaches teach us those things, and it translates into the things we do. I mean, like Brady, when we first started the tactical, and every week we had to go through and say what our goals were and where we were. I'll be honest. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I was like, I know I asked for this. I wanted the weekly meeting. I want to do these things. And I used to think, I got to sit down and I got to make sure I have, but you know what? It made me intentional on completing those things.
Yeah.
And then even now we're going through our evaluation process just because of the way that our financial calendar works at the church. And one of the questions it asks is, how do we get better as a team? And I took the principles that you were doing. I said, we need to be doing this. We need to be sharing where each other's at. Yep. We need to be sharing what we're doing. Yes, there needs to be a level of discipleship. But I was like, this is me. I feel like this is intentionality. And it's like you said, it's these small things that you're like, why am I doing this? Why do I but that 3 minutes that you made us, hey, straight out, what are you doing? How are you at? Where you not getting into the weeds, but it taught you to really focus on that and then be able to say, all right, I have to tell the team how I'm doing in a way that doesn't drag on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would say with Brady too, mine was Coach Spiller. He remembers him back in the day. Same concept, kind of I don't know if he was ever in the military, but he had kind of a military drive to him. But the one thing that I remember about Coach Spiller is he always, no matter what kind of, systematic approach we went through with the fundamentals Brady was talking about, but he always at the end of practice, he would huddle us up together and he would say, guys, I love you all. You can do this. It's okay. It is hard work, but the hard work pays off in the end. It will help you get where we want to go as a team. So the reason this book came up, when our dad was always big on reading books growing up. And of course, I haven't read that many books. I'll be 100% honest with everyone out there, but I've read more recently, and I won't say that I enjoy it, but I'm making myself have to enjoy it, right? And I remember when our dad passed, and I was over at the office and I was cleaning his office out. He had always told Brady and I, read books. It will help you gain knowledge. Read books. It will help you gain knowledge. Brady got it. I didn't. But I will say this book was one of those books that I found in a drawer. And I opened it up and I thought, man, this thing is like really small, but it had huge print. I said, you know what? I'm going to give this thing a try. And I read it. And what it came out of was these 5 coaching fundamentals. And from a coaching standpoint, guys, if we could flip the script now, we're coaches in everything that we do. If I could ask you one question, all right, what is the importance of leaders being personally reliable before coaching others? How would you explain that to someone?
Well, I mean, I think it goes back to one word: is trust.
Mm-hmm.
The people that are following us. I mean, we've talked about this before, is more is caught than taught.
Yep.
So kind of like with our kids, we can say, do this, but when they see us do something different than what we said to do, they're probably going to gravitate toward the things that we did
That's
and not
right.
what we said. So I think it's trust, and trust is I mean, if you listen to any leadership podcast out there right now, the number one thing, whether it's a pastor, whether it's a CEO, whether it's whatever, is trust is a big deal. And I think the organizations that are thriving are the ones that truly trust their leader, because when you trust your leader, you're going to follow that leader.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. Adam?
Yeah. I hate he stole mine. I'm very upset. That was going to be mine.
Sorry.
I do agree, because I don't like saying that a leader should have done something that they should have done. And I say that because I mean, like, Brady, when you led me, that would be like me telling you, well, you should have filmed and edited a video. That's not who you are. I don't want to run a company. So I feel like that's what a lot of people say first. They're like, well, I should never ask somebody to do something I haven't done. I'm like, to an extent, yes.
Right.
No, because the skill set's different. What I feel like for me is that I should never ask someone to do somebody something that hasn't been thought through. I shouldn't ask to do something like, I don't ever want to tell our team, hey, I need you just to go do this, right? Like, I want to talk through, hey, this is the reason, this is why it'll be that way. I feel like this is the outcome. This is our ROI from it, whether that's financial, growth, whatever that is. But I feel like you have to have that trust as well. And that's like what I try to build right now. I'm working on that with my media team, is training them. And I want them to feel like they're growing from something. Like, I don't want to ever feel like I'm just the guy that does it if I can't provide value to them. I want to always be able to do that. I mean, I felt like the past 2 years when I was working on you, Brady, I got a lot of value from our one-on-ones. I got a lot of value on just learning how to handle things and learning how to handle stress and how to handle anger and how to handle, like, when things don't go my way, and emotion, because I don't feel like you're as an emotional person, obviously, as I am. But those were things that I felt like you kind of helped me learn to control. And as a leader, I want to be able to do that for my team. Like, what can I help them? Because eventually, if they're going to be better at something, I don't always expect them to be here, but if they're going to go do something, I would love to think, hey, I had a small part to play. Like, I hope I helped them do something they thought they couldn't do.
Yeah. And both of you, exactly what the book talks about, that leadership is an inside job. And what we're talking about is we have to be self-aware, and Brady said it as well, integrity, trust. We have to give that so that we can get that. So let's go through the 5 coaching habits real quick. The first one is to explain expectations and alignment. So, Brady, we do this in our company a lot. For those of you listening out there, clarifying the goals, the plans, the roles, and the rewards, because we want to make sure that we emphasize that as well, because that lines our teams up. Give us an example of how we explain the expectations, and it's not just a one-time thing. It's you have to constantly continue to do that, how we're aligning our team together.
Yeah, I think it's 2 things. I mean, especially when you're, well, I guess it really doesn't matter if you're a small organization or a large organization. I think number one, it comes down to 2 words called organizational clarity. And so organizational clarity is, a lot of times we as leaders, we know what we want, but we don't always explain clearly what we want, or we explain it once and expect our team to retain it, and it just doesn't work. And so that organizational clarity is set the goal, set the vision. We've talked about strategic plans and all that stuff, but you have to. I mean, even Monday, we in our tactical meeting, as Adam was talking about earlier, it's halfway through the year is gone. So, and we're probably going to have an episode here in the next couple months, maybe in the next month, called Halftime, to adjust or not to adjust. That is the question.
Yep.
Because we pulled out the old strategic plan and said, okay, here's what we said in December. We've gone
Yep.
through the first half of 2025. Do we need to make any adjustments, or do we need to keep it the same? Because 6 months in our business is like 3 years.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So there's a lot that's going on. So I think organizational clarity, and along with that, and we've talked about this on the show before, but each leader is the chief reminding officer. And so that chief reminding officer is, well, you keep saying it and saying it and saying it and saying it, and then you ask good questions to see if the team is responding. And if they're responding back with what you've made clear, then you got it.
Yeah,
That's the golden nugget right there.
So he just got the
what's
second
funny
coaching
about
habit.
that?
So just hold on, man. Go ahead, Adam. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
That's
I went
all
ahead.
good. All good.
I was gonna say what's funny about what you were talking about though, Brett. You're talking about, taking that time to look at it. It's funny. I don't know if I ever told you this, but that right there, that principle is exactly what made me make a career change last year, because you brought that up to us. And I remember sitting in Tactical, you brought it up last year, and you said, you were just asking, have we done what we want to do? Are we doing what we want to do? And you were asking different questions. And I'm sure you didn't mean it that way, but in my head, I'm like, no, I want to be.
Yeah, I was not asking you to leave, Adam.
I know.
Just to be clear.
You were. But I think you have to have that intentionality to think through those things. And when you said that, I sat and thought, am I creating, am I being able to use it? Am I doing the things that I want to be able to do? Am I making an impact, spiritually, commercially? So it was just kind of funny. As soon as you said that, it triggered, because I remember, I think I actually may have mentioned it when I sat down to talk to you about making the transition, but I was also an emotional person during that. So, but yeah, you were just.
I remember that. Anyway.
Well, to finish this first point up, remember this, as Brady and Adam both mentioned, the lack of clear expectations is the most common reason for performance problem. Brady, I'll let you quote it, but Dad used to tell us the 7 P's of success. What were they?
7 P's: prior, proper planning, prevents pitiful, poor performance.
And I tell you, it lines up exactly with this. If you set up the expectations right.
Some people do change out one of the P's.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we're going to use his version. But if you set expectations right, it will align the company. And then moving into the second one, okay, as Brady kind of alluded to, ask questions. It involves engagement in your team. Because if you can create this open dialogue with your team members and let them have, we're going to talk about this in a second, buy-in to what you're trying to accomplish, open dialogue. Brady, why don't you just kind of dive into that just a little bit more? I know you started to a second ago.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we as human beings, how often have you been in a conversation with somebody, you're talking to them, and you know that instead of them actually listening to you, they're already formulating their response. So that's not a conversation. And so I think from both a leadership perspective and those that you're leading is, and I think you'll probably go into this here in a minute, but it's about good listening.
Yeah.
Our dad used to tell us that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. So God must have wanted us to listen twice as much as we speak. And there's a book that I read years ago, and we have one of our leaders that actually teaches this to some of our teammates, called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and by Stephen Covey. And one of the principles in there, he says, seek first to understand before being understood. And so what that really means is, Adam, I don't know everything about the creative world, as you were talking about earlier, but if I don't seek first to understand and appreciate like what those things are, then I can't really lead you effectively to understand what you're going to be doing on a day-to-day basis. Number one. Number two, take the vision that we've set as an organization, and how does that piece fit into that vision? So we both have to talk and listen and talk and listen and I think it goes to alignment at the end of the day.
I think you can take that too, though, and flip it. Benji and I kind of were chatting about this just off air a few weeks ago, is sometimes too, as the employee, is understanding what like the two of you deal with. And I think sometimes that's why just like this podcast is important, and having that same dialogue. Like sometimes I think people just see you as like, well, their owners are doing this, they have this, they get to do these things, they can come and go. But I don't think sometimes them understanding the stress and the decisions and the things that you have to make as an owner, I think sometimes doing that too, you're talking about asking questions, and you guys tell me if I'm wrong on this, but I feel like as the employee being able to do the same things with you and having that open dialogue, not as a way to be disrespectful or, dive into things that maybe I shouldn't have any business knowing, but knowing those things allow me to be like, man, I really need to take a step back and realize, okay, so Benji and Brady are dealing with this, or, like my pastor and my creative pastor, like they deal with this. There's things that I may not see that go on to get to that, to get to those decisions or those things that are done. So for me as the employee, I've always felt like that's important too to culture, is to say, hey, like I want to buy in. Let me know what you're doing and what you're working on. So that way I kind of know, like, all right, I need to cut some slack. I need to let them, like, hey, they're dealing with this. They're, for you're handling one person, I think you're handling just me, but you're handling 220 other people. So,
yeah. And again, to sum this part up, with having your team ask questions, that does create the engagement. But I will say, I love this quote in the book, and it says, he who talks the most loses. So just because you let your team ask questions and all, and you're creating that engagement, the third point is to involve them. It gives them ownership. Now, I will preface by saying that you do want ideas from your team. You do, because everyone comes from a different perspective. But that doesn't mean, business owner or manager, that you have to do all of those things. There are times where Brady talked about this a few episodes ago, where we were doing our core value readjustment, and we were going from 10 to, I don't know what it was, 20 down to 10, down to 7.
4,700.
Yeah. And he was
that would
like,
have been great.
He said, you know what? No, I'm not doing that. And then he finally goes, maybe we should. So there are times where that can play to our advantage to help us. But again, encourage team participation in the decision making. It does build ownership. Brady, you got an example of that recently we've done?
No, I mean, I think that's a really good example. I mean, us as leaders, I think what's a little bit freeing is if you have a really good team around you, then you don't necessarily have to come up with all of the solutions.
Yep.
We've talked about Working Genius on the podcast before, and Working Genius is a great example of this. Is, as a leader, we can come up with, okay, here's the challenge, and here's the thing that needs to be solved. So let's solve this thing together. Now, at the end of the day, the leader's got to make the ultimate decision, but where ownership comes in is when, and you get a lot of buy-in from the team, is, hey, so when we went from 4,700 core values to 22 to 10 to 7, it's now the team owns that better, because they had buy-in and solutions into trimming those down to the 7 that we have right now.
Yeah. And we've seen tremendous, as you said, we've seen people are starting to, because they have ownership, they created buy-in. They're using those in social posts around the office. They're talking about, I mean, one of our core values is extreme ownership. It's right there. And so they're using it. Sorry, Adam, I didn't mean to cut you.
No, that's what I was saying. I think too, that's one of the things I've always loved about the Serve Pro system. And then obviously, because I'm part of Team Wilson, I feel like we do the best job at it. But one of the things I've noticed is an overwhelming theme in the Serve Pro system is ownership in your team.
Yeah.
I mean, just take a couple of your big teams that you see, like the people that work for Team Dobson, they're always posting about, hey, I am Team Dobson, or I am Team Wall, or I am Team Bissett. These are all teams in the Serve Pro system or owners, but they do the same thing. I am part of Team Wilson.
Yep.
And so I think that's neat to see. Yeah, it may be your owner's name, whatever it is, whoever owns that entity.
Mm-hmm.
But I think something that is an overwhelming theme is, because it's a franchise system, is having ownership to a point of saying, like, hey, this is who I am. Not only do I bleed green, but I'm my team color. I am my team, any town or any name, whatever it is. And I think something that you guys have done well is to say, hey, this is what we're trying to do as an ownership to help our overall Team Wilson family, not just your your immediate family, but your extended family, which is your staffing.
Yeah. And again, we'll kind of sum this part up, but involving the team creates ownership. There was a quote in the book. It said, excellent leaders prevent blind spots by making concerted efforts to keep in tune with the realities of their employees. So get that buy-in. It creates ownership. Moving to the fourth one, measure results, which creates accountability. We do this all the time. Brady, one of our core values, data wins.
Data drives decisions.
Yeah, it does. And metrics that track your progress and hold the team accountable. Now, Brady, I'll let you touch on this for just a second, but I think you would agree that sometimes we can have too many metrics in a business that this becomes noise. So touch on that for just a minute.
Yeah, I think that number one is think about going to your favorite sporting event, okay? And you look up and the game's going well and, there's a lot of competition, but there's no scoreboard.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably for most of us, it's like, yeah, why are we here? We want to see somebody win. So in business, it's the same way as having a scoreboard, a scorecard, something like that. And so, and I won't get into the details, but it's really two different things. And we actually talked about this recently as a leadership team is, KPIs and KPMs. A lot of people get these mixed up, and they think they're the same thing. They're really not, because a KPI is an indicator. Okay, if I'm driving my car and the gas gauge is going to a quarter tank, well, there's three of us here, and all three of us at quarter tank may either mean, hey, I've got 80 miles left to go, or I need to pull over now and get some gas.
Yeah.
That's an indicator of I need to do something. And then conversely, KPMs. So the KPI is like windshield. I'm looking out. Where am I going? What do I need to adjust? And KPM is a different adjustment, but through the rearview mirror. So it's the metrics that are looking back to say, okay, what is the score? Let me look up. Okay, it feels like we're doing good, but let me look up. Yeah, we're winning, so this is good. or we're losing. We need to adjust. I think that's really how when we start measuring results, that's what we look at.
Yep, for sure. And again, this obviously everyone knows you have different metrics in your company. Adam, you guys, I'm sure have them in your church with guests or whatever else.
We're working on it.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing is what gets measured gets done. So maybe it was a topic that came up from a meeting. You bought ownership from an employee. They had an idea, whatever. Yeah, measure that. And then I'll say this: the fifth thing is to appreciate people. It creates commitment.
Yeah,
and I think this is probably the one that hit home the most with me when I read this book. Was just to say thank you for what they do. Yeah, you can give rewards out, we do things like that, but just to recognize them and appreciate team efforts deepens the commitment. Brady, talk about our core values. You don't have to go into detail about them, but what have we done to appreciate people that have shown that they're like, man, they really do, care about what I'm doing and how I'm doing and what you're doing with Coffee with the CEO, again, for those listeners that may be tuning in.
Yeah. I mean, we're trying to listen to the people. And so when we started doing the core values or relaunching the core values, we started back this thing called Coffee with the CEO, and just sitting down with a group of 4 to 5 people and really listening to them, allowing them to have a voice. Like we want to hear like what's going well, what's not. But also, and as a part of that is we don't start with, hey, what do we need to do to get better? Yeah. We don't start with that. We start with, what do you guys feel like is going well in the organization, and it gets that positive spin, and so we can help to appreciate people, and it's just being honest, that's not my strongest suit. And I have to recognize that from time to time. I was even in a meeting the other day, and I was actually surprised by what I said, because one of our leaders was like, hey, we need to make sure we're doing this and tweak this. And I'm like, look, don't disagree. Yes, we need to do that. But we actually had a great month last month. Like, let's before we do that, which we need to, but let's get with the team. Let's pause and reflect and say, guys, you guys did an incredible job.
Yeah.
Whatever department that it was, but you guys did an incredible job. And in order to keep doing that, now let's tweak these things.
Yeah.
So we motivated first by that thankfulness and appreciation.
Yeah. Adam?
No, I that's one of the things that that I've really enjoyed about where we're at. I mean, obviously, again, totally different industry. We're not 24-hour restoration, things like that. But one of the things that Pastor Jeremy's done for us is like this week, we go nonstop.
Yeah.
From Christmas to Easter. And you don't think that. People are like, it's a church. Like, how does that, like, they don't, it's like like we've talked about, they don't understand the behind the scenes. Like, we jumped from Christmas. Like, I came in at a tough time. We came in right a few months before Christmas. We're rolling for Christmas, rolling into Easter. We have summer camp, summer, VBS or whatever church calls it, all these things. We run nonstop. And like this week, the church is closed the week of July 4th. It is just a way for Pastor Jeremy to say, hey, y'all have done a lot. Rest. Like, just rest. Like, don't work. Don't do anything. The church won't fall apart if we don't post anything. He's told me that before. He was like, Adam, it'll be okay. Like, you're fine. And so that's been a big thing that's allowed us to. And, I actually posted something on my personal social media the other day. We took a night, took the girls to a ball game. I think we ran into you guys, you and the kids, Benji. It was just a night. Normally we wouldn't have that. Just having these moments. I've been able to do things with the girls this summer that I just haven't in the past, just because of the busyness or things going on. And so that's some of the things that has been great for me as an employee is taking those, because I know when we get back next week, we're like back to school. We got fall events, men's night, women's night, fall retreat. Like, it's just nonstop.
It never ends.
And I'm one video guy. We're not a church that has an entire media team where we can split it. I mean, we're working toward that. We're not there yet. So, and I think for me, I think that's the cool thing, is that find out what works for your organization, for your people. For me, it's rest. Like, hey, yes, I love bonuses. I love all this stuff. Honestly, I just enjoy the downtime. That's my refiller. I jokingly say I'm an introverted extrovert. If the two of you said, Adam, we need you to talk to the company, I'll do it. It ain't gonna bother me. I'll do it, whatever it is. But I have no problem just being behind the scenes and doing nothing. So I think that shows too, is like, find out what works for your organization, what people like what makes them feel like you see their value, because I think that's something that's a big part. I think we're moving to that culturally, is that people I think people will work to their fingers to the bone if they just know they're working for somebody that sees it and appreciates it.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yep. Well, again, for our listeners out there, just a couple key takeaways for you. Personal reliability is the foundation of effective leadership. Don't forget the 5 coaching habits. Again, if you haven't read the book, The 5 Coaching Habits of Excellent Leaders by Lee Colan and Julie Colan, I encourage you to get it. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it wherever you can find audiobooks as well. But they are explaining expectations, ask questions, involve your team, measure the results, and appreciate people. And I love the order that these were put in. Brady, when I was thinking through this topic, I thought, man, that kind of lines up with our core values, if you think about it. So this drives team alignment, engagement, ownership, accountability, and most importantly, commitment from your team. And by consistently applying these habits, you foster a culture of trust and high performance. Well, we just want to say thank you all again for tuning in today. If you don't know how to get in touch with us, you can always look at higheruppodcast.com. We're on social platforms at Higher Up Podcast. Would appreciate you all checking that out and sharing this and applying it, maybe not just to your business, but to others out there that may be looking for an opportunity as well. And as we always say, go out and choose to live a higher up life. See you next time.
Mm-hmm.